some breaking news late. Was that Monday morning or Monday night? Excuse me.
Yeah,
Shams
during the
Charania
game.
broke the news during the game that Olivia Miles is not only not declaring for the WNBA draft this season, she is entering the transfer portal. For those of you guys who don't know, just because you enter the transfer portal doesn't mean you're leaving your school.
Right.
You obviously still can. She obviously still can return to Notre Dame if she chooses to.
Right.
But with all the other players that have entered the transfer portal since, I think I read something on Twitter the other day where like there's only 2 players on the roster right now who played this past season who are not in the portal
On Notre Dame.
on Notre Dame.
Yeah,
It's
Hannah and Cassandra.
and
Cassandra Prosper, yeah.
So maybe there's a little bit more to this than what we might think. Initial reactions, initial thoughts. I know that you were super pumped to go on your Hannah Hidalgo World Tour if they won a national championship this year, and that kind of unraveled. But this was certainly unexpected, Martin. What are we thinking and just reacting to Olivia being in the transfer portal?
I wish this was an April Fool's joke. I wish this was the April Fool's joke. So yeah, there are some layers to this. There is some context to this that we don't really know much yet for sure. People are out there speculating based on some things. I guess the biggest thing for me in terms of Olivia not wanting to play her final college season at Notre Dame, I know a lot of people are pointing to Hannah, and I will give some thoughts on that because I think based on circumstances and some events, which we have mentioned on here before related to Hannah, that some people may not be as aware of if they're not in the internet streets, but and I think it's fair to assume based on those things that might be playing a factor here. But I don't want to start with that because I don't want to start with the mess and the drama of it. But I think the biggest thing for me is, and it's all connected, so it could be tied to maybe a rift with Hannah or something. But I think the main thing for me is Olivia choosing to not play for Niele Ivey next year. I think that's the biggest thing I'm trying to think through is like, and there could be so many different reasons, right? Like, I covered Olivia in high school. She played at Blair Academy here in Jersey. Some have speculated she might want to play her last year closer to home, maybe go to Princeton or something. Fun fact, Olivia Miles was our first Protect Our Queens interview right here on this channel. Before the Protect Our Queens podcast, we had just Protect Our Queens on Basketball Society. She was our first interview. This was at right after she had committed to Notre Dame. So we talked about her going there, playing for Niele. Over the years, she has always had glowing remarks about Niele, and they clearly had a great relationship and admiration for one another. So some have speculated that maybe, and because like Kate Koval is in the transfer portal too, you mentioned like Notre Dame only has 2 players on the roster from this past season now. And so some have speculated that Niele Ivey might be getting let go, or that she may have tipped off her players that she is moving on. And that might be a reason why Olivia, part of the reason why she may not want to stick around. I don't see that as that likely or realistic. Some have floated that Niele Ivey has like underachieved with like losing in the Sweet 16. I think like 4 out of the last 5 years or something. You could look at it the other way and say she's been to the Sweet 16 4 of the last 5 years. But I don't think her getting let go is as realistic as maybe her leaving, but I don't really see her leaving either. So I just wanted to start with that. Like it must be something real. Again, it could be like maybe she wants to come closer to home. I know Olivia is kind of like a nerd in her own right, like a proud nerd. So maybe a Princeton, maybe she wants to go Ivy League, change up her look. And I mean, entering the transfer portal suggests that she's open to kind of changing her environment next year. Maybe it's at a place like Princeton. Others have speculated places like UConn, LSU. Before getting into thinking about Olivia Miles on a different team and what that could mean, I'm still just trying to process why this is even happening. Why am I being robbed? Sorry, I don't want to be selfish. Why are we being robbed of the best backcourt in college basketball that we saw this season, which I told people we were going to see? And it was exciting. It was wonderful. Of course, they fell short in the Sweet 16. But it's crazy to think that we won't. The idea of Olivia coming back to school another year, what made that so exciting was the fact that she would have another crack at it with Hannah, with Niele, and the fact that we're going to see her in another jersey is just mind-boggling to me. But I'm shocked that she wouldn't choose to play. What does she feel like she's going to get somewhere else? Like, people are talking about NIL, and I get, like, when you transfer, you create a bidding war, and we've seen that players will get like 2 to 3 times more from the school they're transferring to, because it creates a bidding war. People are writing checks now. You can pay for players now. It's legal. It's out there. So I can get that, and like seeing what her options are, creating a bidding war. I get that, but people are acting like Notre Dame doesn't have an NIL. Like, you can make money at Notre Dame too. So people are like, oh, NIL money opportunity. Niele Ivey you don't see Niele Ivey in all these commercials. Notre Dame clearly believes in NIL, and they've got money. So I don't know if it's just a money thing. So again, there are different factors at play, possibly, but I just can't believe we have to experience this. I wish her the best. I'm sure she's going to make a great decision for herself, because Olivia is a very smart girl. You also have the WNBA new CBA thing going on. So people have mentioned that with the money and the business IQ and decision possibly for her. We know in 2026, there will be a new CBA, a new deal, the potential for more money, bigger contracts. So people have pointed to that too, where Olivia forgoes this year, comes back into the draft next year for potential for more money. So in that sense, it could make good business sense.
I'm glad you brought up the money component, because that's the part of this that's been super annoying to me. And I saw a tweet. I won't say the person's names. I don't want to like make it seem like I'm like bashing the person, but basically what he said was, he tweeted out like the average salary of a WNBA player, or the top 4 picks from the WNBA last season was like a touch over $76,000. And comparatively, the top 4 players in women's basketball on average made $1.1 million in NIL money. And I've seen a lot of people trying to compare the fact and justify that, the WNBA has a problem if should she have declared for the draft a lock as top 4 pick in the draft in a couple weeks, was going to, instead of going to the league, stay in college for NIL money. Mm-hmm. And I just want to perfectly clear, this is apples and oranges. WNBA salary, if you're going to compare money made to NIL in the WNBA, you compare it to endorsements, because that's what NIL money becomes when you go professional. It becomes endorsement money, right? So we're not comparing, it is not fair or a level playing field to compare the average WNBA salary of a top 4 pick at $76,000 to how much money Olivia would be making in NIL money, which is a touch over 1.1 million, assuming she is up there in the ranks, right? So here's my belief. Olivia Miles last season missed all of last season due to an injury. This was her first year back from an injury where she didn't play at all. She didn't play basketball for an entire year, and she played great this season. It is my belief that Olivia Miles feels it would be better for her rookie season in the WNBA to be 3 years removed from a gruesome injury compared to 2 years removed from a gruesome injury. Maybe she wants to get a little bit stronger. Maybe there's still some things she wants to work out a little bit more. Maybe as great as she played this season, maybe she feels like she can play even better being another year removed from that injury. And I don't think that it is, I don't think that this is just a money thing. I think like my beef with the whole NIL thing now, especially when it comes to the WNBA, is now that NIL is a thing, and now that we're seeing girls make money and get brand deals and be all these different types of commercials and stuff, now people who aren't tapped in, who aren't really watching the product, are using that to say as a demerit to the WNBA. I don't think that's the case. I felt the same way about when we started to see a couple players go to like G League at night instead of going to college to get to the NBA draft. Like it's the same thing. There's a lot of different routes to do this. And for me, it's not surprising that she chose to not declare for the draft. That's not surprising because I sent you the tweet where she said she was kind of on the fence about whether or not she was going to declare. So her not declaring for the draft isn't the surprising thing about this. What's surprising, as you mentioned, is that in her final year of college eligibility, she's choosing, or at least it seems like she's choosing, to spend that year playing somewhere other than Notre Dame. That's the part that's surprising. I think I saw someone on Twitter where someone had thrown out there the possibility that maybe she just wants to have a shot at competing for a championship. Maybe that's a possibility. Now, of the list of teams that I saw on there, because I know that you had sent me the list of teams where like that she had, gotten offers from previously, right? I saw Stanford on there. You mentioned Princeton. The only team on that list where she could go to next season and have a legitimate shot at winning a national championship would be UConn.
Yeah. That
would be the only school from that list where she'd have a better shot at winning a championship next season compared to just staying put in Notre Dame. I'm not in this speculation business. Maybe there is a little bit more to this than what we know. Maybe we'll find out in a couple of years when someone writes a book. Maybe we'll find out in a couple months once it's all settled down and someone just sits down for an interview. But the NIL component of this, the financial component of this, is really a non-issue, in my opinion. Like that's really not, I think, as big of a factor as it seems like a lot of people on Twitter have tried to make it seem. I think the story here is that Olivia Miles is choosing to play her final year of college. It's somewhere other than Notre Dame. That's the part I think that we should really be focused on.
That's right.
That's shocking when you think about the fact that Notre Dame just 3 weeks before the tournament was the number 1 seed in the country. They're the best team in the country. They obviously lost some games down the stretch, fell apart a little bit there, had an early exit in the ACC tournament, and then obviously, as you alluded to, lost in the Sweet 16. There's like, that should be the focus. We shouldn't be worried about, oh, she's choosing, NIL money in college over the WNBA. That's really a non-issue compared to what we should really be talking about here.
Yeah. And so on that note, from a basketball standpoint, and it's hard to not talk about the Hannah thing without the social standpoint. But just from a basketball standpoint, it is interesting to me that, because again, the biggest surprise to me is Niele Ivey, that she is seemingly choosing to at least open to the possibility of not playing for Niele Ivey. That surprises me because I really feel like if you listen to any time they talk about each other, they had a real close relationship. So unless there's something up with Ivy that we don't know about, you kind of start to look at Hannah, because the next biggest surprise of her not wanting to play for Notre Dame in her last year is that she's choosing or open to the possibility of not playing with Hannah. And we saw how magical, how electric the two of them could be together. But there may have been things that Olivia noticed or felt or sensed in terms of, even just think about the fact that Notre Dame won the ACC last year without Olivia. The team was elite with Hannah running the show, and she was the focal point. When Olivia came in, it was like, okay, great, even more help. But I guess I'm just thinking maybe because, and here's the thing, Marcus, Olivia and Hannah are both point guards. Like, people slot Hannah as a shooting guard now because she's been playing the two, because Olivia is the kind of point guard where Hannah will defer and be like, you play the point, you take that responsibility, especially when Hannah had all the attention on her last year as the lead guard. So Hannah has been playing the two very well, very comfortably, and has turned into become one of the top scorers in the nation at the two guard. But the reality is Hannah is a point guard. And maybe the whole 2-point guard thing with Hannah evolving into more of a volume shooting guard, maybe that's something just from a basketball standpoint that Liv said, hey, Hannah, the program is yours. Like, you go ahead and take it over. You had success without me. You guys won the ACC last year. Maybe just from a basketball standpoint, she started to feel like, let Hannah do this. I've got one more year left. Maybe she wasn't feeling, and look, over the last couple months, Notre Dame wasn't looking the same. They started out the first few months great, and then the last couple months, you saw that there was clearly something happening. Their chemistry was taking a hit. They just didn't look the same. So maybe there were things happening behind the scenes. Maybe their chemistry was disrupted based on certain things. But just from a basketball standpoint, I find it really interesting that, again, Olivia's choosing to possibly not play for Niele Ivey and not play with Hannah Hidalgo. You mentioned the prospect of Olivia Miles being on a team that can win a national championship. That's going to be interesting to see kind of what her motives are, what her agenda is here. Like, if that is the case, and forget the list of teams that she was considering before she committed, just in general, the teams right now that are national title contender worthy. I mentioned LSU earlier. So you're looking at LSU, a UConn, a South Carolina, a UCLA. Like, look at just basically the teams in the elite. Look at the other teams in the Elite Eight, Final Four. Those are the teams you're looking at. Yeah. As far as like, would Olivia Miles want to go to a program that is built to compete for a national championship? Stanford and Princeton wouldn't suggest that. That would suggest she wants to more like enjoy her final year, play her game, like you said, maybe get stronger. Last quick thing, I'll stay on it. My sister always told me, you got to go while you're hot. And I certainly wish the best for Liv. I mean, again, she was our first interview on Protect Our Queens. Love her to death. She's a Jersey girl. I've watched her since high school. I've talked about how special I feel she is and will be even at the next level. I think she's a game-changing, program-changing, franchise-changing point guard. Wherever she goes for her last year, she's going to elevate that team. But you know, it's got to be somewhere. And I think she's super smart and she'll make the right decision for herself. But listen, I've always believed you got to go while you're hot to be the projected number 2 pick. And you know, you're right. We shouldn't. It's not just about money and like WNBA versus I can make more money staying in school. I don't even think it's that. It's not even really about that. But even just from a health and like stock standpoint, like, you don't want your stock to drop. And look, how much higher can your stock go than projected number 2 pick, maybe up to number 1 pick, but like, you know, it becomes a little bit of a gamble with your stock in that sense. But I mean, I think she'll be fine. I'm just fascinated at what kind of school she may transfer to.
Absolutely. To everyone that's watching right now, we appreciate you guys for tapping in with us early this morning as we talk about we finish wrapping up the conversation on Olivia Miles entering the transfer portal.
Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Anyone who might be watching live on the playback, leave some comments. Let us know what you think about the Olivia Miles.
You have 2 comments from Nick. First one, he says, it's confusing because after they lost to TCU, Olivia stated that she, quote, outgrew college, then decides to pass up on the draft and hit the portal. Then he followed that up by asking, what are your thoughts on Olivia at TCU?
So I think that that comment now feels like she meant that she might have really been saying that she outgrew Notre Dame because she's staying in college. So if she felt like she outgrew college, then she would have gone to the pros. So subliminally, what she probably was really saying to us was, I've outgrown Notre Dame, which is interesting. TCU is interesting, and I think like we're looking at now in this transfer portal era, teams like you have certain coaches and certain programs that are going to be in that portal. Notre Dame and Niele Ivey, assuming she's still there, better be in that portal. I mean, they got to be in the portal. They need players. Yeah. So, but I think we're going to see certain programs. TCU came up with Haley Van Lith. Iowa came up with Lucy Olson. USC came up with Kiki Iriafen. I think we'll see certain programs continue to try to make big come-ups with transfers. So TCU, with their experience with Haley this year, I could see them making a call to Olivia. I could see them trying to make that pitch for sure, because they've experienced the benefits of a big transfer and seeing what they can do for their program. So I could definitely, I'm still wrapping my head around, like, I don't even have an answer. Where I want to see Olivia Miles play next year is the University of Notre Dame. I don't have any like projections or like, oh, she could go here. Like I have a couple thoughts, but I'm still just trying to recover from the reality that she may not be in a Notre Dame uniform.
Yep. And then last thing, Felix John Baptiste just popped in and said
Else.
If she stays at Notre Dame, don't see that much competition at the top with Juju out, Page out. South Carolina should still be there, but if it's about winning, Notre Dame has a great shot.
Yeah, that's the thing too. It's like if you want to win, that's what I keep saying. Like, what does she get from anywhere else that she can't get from Notre Dame? Whether it's money, contending for a championship, playing for a great coach, like those things are checked off at Notre Dame. So that's where you have to start to read between the lines and look at the discourse on Twitter and all the extracurricular context to this situation. Yeah. And it's fair to assume that that might have something to do with it, because up to this point, it has felt like she has everything she needs at Notre Dame to be successful, but clearly she may not feel that way anymore.